Hi, this is David Heine, Aspect Art. Today we're in the Rembrandthuis for a very special show of a contemporary artist, Henk, who paints in the style of the 17th century. He uses a kind of contemplative chiaroscuro style of still life that is reminiscent of many of the masters of the 17th century. With us today is the curator of that show, Bob van den Boogert, who's going to tell us why the Rembrandthuis has chosen to display an exhibition of a contemporary artist. So join us now in the Rembrandthuis for Henk Helmantel. Thank you. Bob?
Hi.
We're here today for an exhibit that you have at the Rembrandthuis of a contemporary painter, something a bit unusual, I think, but why do you have a contemporary painter here?
Well, Museum de Rembrandthuis, of course, specialized in works by Rembrandt, especially his printed work, but we also wanted to broaden our scope a little. Museum de Rembrandthuis wants to present modern artists who try to stick to academic traditions, especially traditions from the 17th century, and of course traditions that are more or less, in the spirit of Rembrandt, you could say. And this is the first show on Henk Helmantel. Where we present paintings in the museum. We did not do that before. But in the future it will probably be more modern printmakers, modern graphic artists that we will show, and we plan to do a show on a living artist every year.
So what are some of the traditions from the 17th century that relate this painter to them?
Yeah, well, in the first place, he works very realistic. That's one of the main features, of course, of Dutch art in the 17th century. He wants to evoke a very realistic image of everyday life, of objects from everyday life. And well, that's one of the main characteristics of Dutch art of the Golden Age. To that he works with oil paint, and he works very carefully. But he's not only a fine painter. People call him a fine painter, working very precise. But when you see the man at work, and we have some videos shown here in our auditory, you see that he works very swift, very quickly, and he finishes also large paintings in, say, about 3 or 4 days. It goes very quickly, and you can't imagine that it's so that the texture of the objects that are represented is so accurate when you consider that he does these things so quickly. That's incredible thing. So this virtuosity that was normal in the 17th century with still life painters like Heda or Pieter Claeszoon is something he masters, and he is more or less an autodidactic painter in that, because there are no places in Holland where you can learn this traditional technique. He taught it to himself. That was one of the main strong points of this painter. The man is very strong-minded on working in a perfect technique. It's one of his main objectives to work in this very elaborate technique, but not working on the millimeter, but doing it in a way Rembrandt would have done it also, swift and secure. So.
I noticed that what you have displayed here anyway are primarily still lives.
Yeah.
Now, of course, in the 17th century they painted more than still lives. They did portraits, they did nudes, and they did history paintings. Does Helmantel do any of those?
He did some portraits, he did some landscapes, he did a lot of church interiors, also in 17th century spirit. One of his main one of the artists that inspires him most is in these church interiors. Pieter Sanerdam, of course, but also Emmanuel de Witte and Gerrit Hoekgeest. We chose to show only his still lifes. You have to make a pic. The room, the exhibition room, is not so very large, so we chose to show his still life, which are, I think, the most strong part of his whole oeuvre. You see in these still lifes a very strong concentration on the way light touches all these objects, and the way light falls behind these objects, and the way you can give depth in a representation of reality that is very convincing. That's what you see best, I think, in his still lives, better than in his church interiors. But he did some portraits, but in his own words, it's not his strong point, portraits. So, but who knows? Perhaps in the future he will make some portraits also. History paintings he did not, I think. The man is a very contemplative painter, very meditative painter. The atmosphere in his work is very, very subtle, very quiet, and very. It's meant to evoke harmony, etc. And I think still lifes are the best way to express this way of thinking about art. I think, and I think he manages to do this very, very well, better than most of his contemporary colleagues.
Now, I did notice there were a few special paintings having to do directly with the Rembrandthuis. You want to talk about those a little?
Yeah, of course. These are behind you. We had some excavations on the courtyard of the Rembrandthuis during the restoration of the Rembrandthuis 2 years ago, and they found some objects in a how do you call it, in a bin underground, where they found some pots and pans from Rembrandt's household, and also a pot which is also on display here, with some lead white in the interior of the pot. And because the pot is from the period that Rembrandt worked here and lived here, from 1639 to 1658. And lead white is one of the main ingredients of paint in the 17th century. You can tell with security that this pot has been used by Rembrandt during his stay here in the Rembrandthuis. We landed all these objects from Rembrandt's cesspool, I think it's called. And Henk Helmantel did some paintings of these objects, some of his still lifes, and these still lifes are also on display here in the Rembrandthuis. These are very interesting and belong, I think, to his best work. He took this lead white pot also to demonstrate how he works. You see the pot exposed next to 3 paintings. It's something like it looks like a triptych, but these are the 3 stages in which his work is made. The first stage, you see the first rough painting that he does when he designs a composition, and well, that's the first painting. The second, you see that it's all worked out in more detail. And the last state, you see that he adds some glazing to it, like 17th century painters also did, to give the whole composition something of a homogeneous tonality. Something like it. It gives some entity to the whole composition, and these 3 paintings next to each other are have a very educative function on the show here. Apart from that, from the fact that they represent this famous pot from Rembrandt's cesspool from his house, from his workshop. Yeah.
Bob, could you tell us how long the show will be here and when people can come and see it?
The show will be on until the 2nd of April. And the show is open every day from 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And on Sundays from 1 o'clock p.m. to 5 o'clock. And so when people want to see it, they have to hurry.
Bob, thank you very much for being with us today.
Okay, you're welcome.